Leave this as it is and simply hit next. That's definitely the best option. Alright, and now we have to make this difficult choice. Darkula or light. I mean, for you there might be only one choice available, but I choose light because within the light version we can see certain buttons or text a little bit better. So it's easier to follow there. And then clicking next, and here we have now the SDK component setup. So we can see the Android SDK is already being checked, and please make sure that that's also the case for you. It's about 300 MB, and that's the most important part in our Android Studio right now. So these are all the tools which we will need to access our device and play around with this one. That's the SDK. Then we can see there's also an SDK platform support for API version 32. We leave this checked, and later on we will also install some older version platform support. For example, for Android version 10, 9, 8, 7, things like this, that we have a pretty good backwards compatibility. For now, we have only this one, and that's good to go. Last but not least, we've got the Android virtual device. In my case, it's already being installed with the Android Studio. I guess this happens if we install the newest version of the Android Studio. If this is not being checked, then please check it. If you forget it at this point right now, don't worry, we can also install it later on. Alright, so we simply have those two enabled. This, by the way, the Android SDK platform, this box cannot be checked. So the check is within this RP32. Okay, and then we click next, and here we've got an overview what is being installed. After clicking next once again, we can see license agreement. So we have to read carefully through this license agreement for the SDK and accept it. And we also have to read carefully through the Android SDK build tools license and accept it. Okay? Then we click finish, and now all these things are being downloaded. Once again, this might take a while, so I will boost up my internet connection that it's pretty fast and fast forward this process right now. Okay, unzipping, here we have the finish screen, perfect. Let's click finish, and now we've got the Android Studio up and running. But we are not done yet. We want to install some additional tools. So therefore we go into more actions, SDK manager, and here we have now some additional platform support. So if you want to write applications, then it's good to have a far backwards compatibility. In case if you're using a real device, which is Android version 7, for example, you want to make sure that you have a platform support for Android Nougat enabled here. Right now, I will only enable 12 and 11. Afterwards, we will install the additional ones, for example, 10 up to Marshmallow, which is version 6. And then you have the comparison against the disk size, how much space this requires right now. So that's the only relevant factor. In case if you have enough disk space, you can also enable them down to Android Marshmallow right now. Alrighty, and then we go into the SDK tools. And here we want to enable NDK. NDK, this is the native development kit, which means our Android applications are normally written in Java. We will have several videos on this later on. But Java might be a little bit slow regarding to certain actions. For example, in mobile games, graphics rendering and things like this. Therefore, we need native code, C, C++ code. And having this NDK box enabled means the Android Studio will also fetch this native development kit, which means we are able to write in C, C++ code. But this requires a certain toolchain, which is this NDK over here. So having this box NDK enabled over here means the Android Studio is fetching this native development kit, and afterwards we will be able to write our own C, C++ code. So this one will be compiled afterwards into a certain library. But these are things we will have a look into later in this course. Right now we simply want to make sure that the NDK box is enabled, that we have this type of support. Okay. Then we want to definitely check the Android SDK command line tools. So this is maybe the most important part. These are the command line tools, for example, the ADB, which will be used to interact with this device, or fastboot, which will be used to interact with the bootloader of this device. So that's the most important tool suite we will have in our Android Studio. Alright. Last but not least, we also enable CMake. So this makes the compilation of certain parts of an Android project a little bit easier. For example, we can check out the Android open source project and compile certain projects out of this one. Alright, then let's see. The rest can be skipped. SDK update sites, nothing interesting over here. Alright, I guess we're good to go. So these are the bundles we want to install. We simply click apply, and here we can see the estimated download size is about 1 GB, but if we extract those files, we will require 4 GB of disk space. And now you know why 20 GB might not be sufficient enough right now. Okay, then we click OK, and I will boost up my internet connection once again. Alright, download has been finished, so let's click on finish. And now I also enable a platform support, let's say up till Marshmallow. Alright, here we can see the estimated disk size is 4 GB. So having a platform support back to Marshmallow just requires 4 GB. I guess that's a fair deal right now. So click on OK. Once again, boosting up these internet connection. Okay, and then we can click finish, apply, and OK. Okay, and that's the installation process of this Android Studio. So now we can start writing our own applications or play around with existing ones. But to do this, we have to do a little bit of a setup first. And by the way, over here we've got things like the plugins, which we will use later on in this course. I mean, I'm not using much of them, but a few are pretty awesome. But we will perform the installation when we require them. For now, we are done installing the Android Studio. Okay, let's close this one. So, as already mentioned, within our home directory, there's now a new directory, the Android directory, and this one has this SDK toolset being downloaded and installed. Over here, we will find all these binaries which we're going to use during this course. For example, in Platform Tools, we've got this ADB binary. This is maybe one of the most important ones over here. If you want to run this binary, we would assume that we simply can open a new terminal, type in ADB, and we're good to go. But here we can see the command has not been found, which means the ADB binary is not visible for our terminal right now. If we want to start this, we have to provide the full path for this binary. And we can do this by performing a right click, open new terminal, pwd to get this current directory. Then we copy this, we insert it over here, and then we append ADB. Alright, here we can see the ADB shell is being started, but this is super inconvenient to memorize. Also, if we're using later on some scripts, we have to insert this path in all of our scripts, and this is something we do not want to have. What we can do is we can include this directory in our path variable, which means if we run a command, for example ADB afterwards, the path variable is looking into all these directories which are listed in this path variable and searching for an ADB binary. In case if it finds one, it will execute it. And in case if there is not, we get this command not found like we have seen before. By having this included in the path variable, we do not need to insert the whole path all the time. We can simply run ADB from our terminal wherever we are right now. And this is super convenient, right? Absolutely. So let's do this. The things we need to do is we need to copy this path, and then we are opening the ZSHRC. I'm using Vim, but you can also use Nano, gedit, Visual Studio Code Editor, whatever you like. Alright, then within this file we scroll down. And now we insert export path, which means we will export a new path variable, and we have to include the existing ones. Otherwise, we will overwrite all the existing directories which has been already included in this path variable. Alright, this looks a little bit crazy, but what we are doing over here is we are exporting this existing path variable to a new variable, which is the same name, but now we can extend additional directories. And therefore we're hitting colon, slash, and now we are inserting the path which has been copied before, but we need to make sure that we are including this directory and not this binary. So we need to delete this ADB, and there we go. So what this line over here does is the following. We're taking the existing path variable, $path, then we append our new directory, the Platform Tools directory, to it, and then we export all of them into a new variable named path, which is identical regarding to the old one, which means we simply append or extend this variable by the Platform Tools directory. All right. Doing this will give us access to all these binaries in this Platform Tools directory right now, which means we can open a new terminal and simply run ADB from this new terminal, and everything works perfectly fine. Nice, isn't it? But before we do this, let's also append another directory which has some useful binaries in there. And this one is within the SDK directory, build tools, and then 3200. Alright, once again right click, open a new terminal, pwd, copying this path, And please make sure that there's a colon separating those two. So this is the separator for our path variable. Okay, and then we simply insert it directly afterwards, appending in slash, and we are good to go. Alright, so then let's close this file, and we can do this by hitting escape :WQ. Yes, that's the way to leave Vim, absolutely crazy. And now let's try if everything works. So by typing in ADB, we should get, what? Command not found? Yes, because this path variable has not been updated for this current terminal yet. If we open a new terminal, it would work. So we could simply open a new one and then type in ADB, or we can simply update this path variable for the terminal we have already opened. We can do this by simply running source and this one on ZSHRC, which means the ZSHRC will be refreshed for this terminal, and this means the path variable will be extended with the two directories we have inserted before. Alright, so let's see, running ADB, and there we go. So here we can see we can now start ADB wherever we like. So we do not need to mesmerize this whole path or going into this directory first. Alrighty? Okay. And this is all. So we can close everything and finish this installation video over here. Okay, so this installation video did become quite long, and I'm not sure what happened over here. So if this was your first time, then I guess it's really helpful to have this view into the SDK tools, setting these path variables and stuff like this. I guess the other installation videos won't take that long. In case of any questions, please drop me a message underneath this video, and otherwise I'm looking forward to see you in the next one.